Good morning, Lowell. It is Saturday, May 27th, 2023. I'm Mary Aline with Lowell's First Look, and I'm here to give you an update on recent news. Before we get to that, I'd like to say congratulations to the class of 2023. Lowell High School had its commencement ceremony this past week, and I believe I read 274 kids in this graduating class, and congratulations to all of you wherever you're going next, whether it's into the workforce or college or military or trade school. We hope that you are met with success and go on to do great things in life. We also want to start off this newsletter with a shout out to our sponsor this week, which is Canfield Plumbing and Heating. Canfield has been a mainstay in Lowell for, I think, about 30 years now, maybe 25. They provide all sorts of services. I've used them before for plumbing issues, for heating issues. They are prompt, they're professional. We've always had good experiences with them. And now's a great time to give them a call, especially if you have a home AC unit and you need that to be tuned up before we hit the summer months, or maybe you don't have an AC unit and you would like to be cool this summer. Now is the time to get in touch with Canfield Plumbing and Heating. You can reach them at 616-897-0887. Again, 616-897-0887. Or you can check out their website at canfieldph.com. That's CANFIELDPH.com. Now let's jump into the news. We started off this week with the Real Estate Corner with Rick Cease. Rick has been a real estate broker for more than 40 years. He's with Greenridge Realty here in Lowell, and every month he puts together an overview of what the housing market looks like. And I always think it's super interesting I'm not looking to buy a house, but I love looking at the statistics. I just think they're really interesting. For example, if you are looking for a home in the area, if you have a good budget to use, you might want to go to Forest Hills, where the average sale price is $543,862. If you have a lower budget, maybe you want to go to Lakewood, where the average sale price is $232,598. If you want to stay right here in Lowell, the average sale price through April of 2023 was $404,147. So he's got statistics like that. He tells you how much the market inventory is right now in Lowell. There's 1.1 months of supply. A normal, like what is considered, the normal inventory would be 5 months of supply. So even though mortgage rates are going up, inventory is really tight. So it's still, to me, it sounds like it's still a seller's market out there if you were looking to sell. Anyways, go to lowellsfirstlook.com and check out the Real Estate Corner with Rick Cease. He's got some other stats as well as his perspective and analysis on the market. We also received a press release from the Franciscan Life Process Center. If you've never been there, they're on Downs Road, which is just north of town. It's kind of in the area, not quite if you're going up Alden Nash, heading to Red Barn Market and Arrowhead Golf Course. It's before that is where Downs Road is. And the Franciscan Sisters there, they have all sorts of cool programs. The press release they sent to us is about their art workshops that are happening this summer. Start in June, they go through October. They have plein air painting. I might be saying that wrong, but I do know that is painting outside. They have one about clothed figure painting, capturing childhood in pastel, building form and presence, and the art of self-portraiture. So those are all workshops they have coming up. So we have their press release announcing that, along with a link to the various artists so you can see who's leading those if you are at all interested. This was also the fourth week of the month, or the fourth Tuesday of the month. So we had the Lowell Arts featured artist interview on Tuesday, and this month it's the Last Gasp Collective. So you can look at this article. There's an interview that Lowell Arts does with the group. They provide questions, and then the group answers them via video. We also have a music video from them if you want to listen to it. I always enjoy when it comes time to do these articles. I usually look at a couple different videos that the groups have on YouTube and pick one. So the one I picked for Last Gasp Collective is Cape and Mask, which I thought was kind of a fun, catchy tune. I will tell you, in the middle, there is like one swear word that I think is pretty obvious. So just be aware if you have little ones in the house and you're concerned about that. You might want to wait till they are out of the room before listening to it. But for the most part, the song it's catchy and fun and doesn't really have anything offensive that I can see. We also published on Tuesday, we got 2 letters to the editor for this past week. The first one we published on Tuesday. It was from someone who is frustrated and angry over what they say are attacks on the school district. If you haven't been following, there have been ongoing issues with people who are upset with the way the school district has handled issues with books in the library. I think it started with the masks during COVID, and it's kind of morphed into this unhappiness about the library, and there's been a lot of strife, and it does seem to be a few vocal people who are bringing up these issues, and this letter writer was frustrated by that, and they just thought, especially because a lot of the people, especially in recent months, a lot of the people who've been coming to school board members to talk don't actually live in Lowell. So I think that's part of the frustration for this writer. Oh, and one thing too is that they mentioned that there had been a police complaint filed against the school board members saying that they were criminally disseminating sexually explicit material to minors because there are a couple books in the high school library which have passages describing sexual encounters. There's one book that has some images of sexual activity. They are in the library as a senior only section, so you have to be a senior to take it out. Well, apparently the issue is, that some seniors might be 17, so they're minors. So someone did file a complaint with the police saying that they thought that the board members should be criminally charged for refusing to take these books out of the library. And it did go, the prosecutor's office did look at it and said that it wasn't a criminal matter. And one of the things we did put on the end of this letter was a note. We did submit a FOIA request to the prosecutor's office just to confirm that that information was correct. And that is correct, that there was a police complaint filed, and the prosecutor's office did look at it and said it's not a criminal issue. So that was that first letter. On Tuesday, we also had the police beat for April 2023. So we always publish the previous month's police beat. So May is April. In June, we'll have the May report. They had 291 case reports in April, which was a little bit higher than normal. Police Chief Chris Hurst told us there wasn't a whole lot that was unusual. They had things like, they had a driver, sounds like maybe a teen, had backed into another car in the library parking lot and then freaked out and took off. So they had things like that. There was an attempted breaking and entering at Joyology. That marijuana retailer was previously broken into. This time an alarm went off. Police responded quickly. The thieves never actually got in. They did get some pictures of the vehicle and the people. People were pretty well covered though, so you couldn't really see a whole lot of identifying features, but that information has been sent to the Kent County Sheriff's Office because they apparently have a team that's working on, there's been marijuana break-ins, I think, all over the county. So that's been sent off to the county to look into. Oh, and then the other thing that we included in this in this month's police beat is information about the Main Street crosswalk. And this has been an issue of ongoing questions for years. So the first time we heard about it, so Lowell's First Look has been around since 2016. And in 2017 is when we started hearing about, how do people handle this crosswalk on Main Street going to the Riverwalk? Are we supposed to stop for people? Do we just keep going? In 2017, we were told It's illegal for cars to stop. You just have to keep going. It doesn't matter if someone's standing at the crosswalk, you just drive because it is a state highway. It's M21 and it's illegal to stop on a state highway. So we published an article about that. That's what we were told at the time. A year later, at a city council meeting, Steve Bukula, who was then the police chief, he made an announcement that he had talked to MDOT and he had been given permission to tell drivers to stop at the crosswalk for people. And then I'm not sure in the meantime, I mean, so that was like almost 5 years ago. So now we have a lot of new residents. I think the issue has come up again. When I met with Police Chief Hurst, he provided me a section of the Michigan Administrative Code. He says, this is what we think applies to this crosswalk. And it basically, you can go look in the police feed at lowellsfirstlook.com and read the actual administrative code. But what Chief Hurst told me is that his understanding is that cars are not obligated to stop and that no one should be walking out. You just should not walk into this crosswalk expecting that everyone's going to stop for you. But he said the best way he thought to do is, look for a reasonable gap in the traffic and start walking across. And once you're in the crosswalk, traffic has to stop for you. If there is someone in the crosswalk, folks, you can't mow them down. So look for a reasonable opening, where you can start to safely walk through, and then the cars in both directions should, in theory, slow down and let you pass safely. And Chief Hurst also, he mentioned, it is 25 miles per hour there. So, in theory, if we're being alert and watching, it shouldn't be too hard to slow down, assuming that someone isn't walking directly out in front of you. So it would be a lot easier, I think, if they had one of those systems where, you could push a button and the lights would go on and alert traffic, because it is hard, especially for folks who are on the Riverwalk side, because there's parking on both sides of that crosswalk. So I know just from driving through there that sometimes it is hard to see that there's someone standing there. So it would be nice if they could do one of those, lights to let you know that people are there and that they're crossing. But again, the real issue with this crosswalk is that it is on M21, which means that MDOT ultimately controls what goes there. And it sounds like MDOT is not very open to having, those sorts of crosswalks or anything that's kind of slowing down traffic on the state highway. So that might all sound clear as mud, but that's what we have been told about the crosswalk. On Wednesday, we did our Along Main Street feature. This comes from the Lowell Area Historical Museum. We have just been moving steadily along the road. We're at 120 West Main Street, which is that adorable little King Milling office building right by the bridge. And so we've got some old pictures and some history, and it's really always been the King Milling. Unlike some of these buildings, which have changed hands, this has just always been owned by King Milling, or I guess before King Milling, it was King Lumber, and then eventually turned into King Milling. But you can check out some photos, see what it looks like today. That is along Main Street for this past week. We also had on Wednesday the Lowell Area Schools Board of Education recap, which was written by Aaron Fultz. They covered a lot of ground, and Aaron has it all covered here. They had a special meeting to start where they had to select representatives who were going to vote in the Kent ISD election. So the way it works in most intermediate school districts is voters don't vote for who sits on the ISD board. The school districts within the ISD vote for who is going to be on the ISD board. I think there might be 2 or 3 ISDs in the state where the voters vote, like everyone votes on who sits on that board. But so at this special meeting, the board, our Lowell Area Schools Board of Education, they agreed that, Pat Nugent would be the person to do the voting, and then Tom Kaywood would be the alternate. And then they decided that they wanted to vote for, there's 3 seats open. They are voting for Andrea Hadel and Ann Hamming is the 2 that they decided that they thought would be the best fit. At that special meeting, they also agreed that a Spanish teacher could work on organizing a trip for students to visit Spain in 2025. So I think that's pretty exciting for those students. After that, they went into their work session meeting where they talked about buying math manipulatives for elementary classes. They got an update on some openings in staff. We have to give, let's see, where is somewhere? Oh, bus drivers, yes. So we want to give a special shout out to the bus drivers who went to the Bus Rodeo Regional in Caledonia. And overall, the Lowell bus driving team placed 5th out of 13. And there were 4 drivers, so Trevor Harrison, Julie Matthews, Dale Hollister, and Sarah Neverez. I'm sorry, Sarah, if I'm saying that wrong. They all placed in the top 25. So congratulations to all of them. Board members also got an update on the budget, that there is a concern numbers might be going down because enrollment is going down, because the birth rate is going down. But in the end, they were kind of told that we just need to wait because we don't have final numbers yet. We don't know what the state's giving us yet, and we don't know, what our enrollment will be like until the fall. But they got a little peek at that. And they have some other odds and ends. So we want to sit down with a cup of coffee and look over this recap. There is lots to see that's going on with the school district. On Thursday, we always publish a column from the Restless Viking, which is Chuck and Martha Hayden. And this week they were taking us to the smallest military cemetery in the state, presumably. And it was a cemetery they discovered in Grayling, Michigan, where Private First Class John Conroy and Private George Lang are buried. And they looked a little bit into why were they buried there and who were these men. And so there is some interesting history in their column this week about that space and those men. And I don't think that they ever actually, there's no record as to why these 2 men are buried in this cemetery and not elsewhere. But Martha Hayden, who wrote the article, she had, some guesses as to maybe why. We also on Thursday published the other letter to the editor we received, which is also along the same lines as the first one, that someone was writing and they're disappointed about this criminal complaint that was filed against the Board of Education regarding the books in the library. This person notes that, we've, as a community, spent a lot of time on this topic, that there's been lots of public comments at, school board meetings, that there was an attempted recall of school board members, but that failed. The library has parental restrictions in place so that people can restrict books, and there's been formal book challenges and reviews, so they feel like we as a community have spent a lot of time on this issue, and it's disappointing that when none of those got the result that the person who filed the criminal complaint got, that they now are going and escalating to taking it to law enforcement, which, they say doesn't necessarily seem like the appropriate place to have these sort of discussions about issues in the school district. So if you want to read that, that is also in all of our letters to the editor. If you go onto our homepage, I think if you're on your phone, you might have to click, like there's 3 lines that will bring you to the sub menu. If you're on your desktop, it's just right on the top. It says letters to the editor, and all of the letters to the editor that we get are listed right there. So that's an easy way to find them if you are curious as to what others in the community are saying about various issues. We also published on Thursday an article from Michelle Smith about Gilda's Club Lowell moving to their new facility. They are at the First Congregational UCC Church, which is on Lincoln Lake Avenue, just north of town. They are moving there along with senior neighbors. They were previously at the Hale House on Hudson Street, and they've really outgrown that facility. And so they are looking forward to being at the church where they've got new space, and hopefully we'll also make connections with, there's a lot of groups that use the Lowell UCC Church. I think the Women's Club is there, Girl Scouts meets there, I think there's a Tai Chi class there. They have a nice meeting area within their church, and it's great that the church is so open and available to hosting different groups. And so now Gilda's and Senior Neighbors is there. On Friday, for Furry Friday, we were featuring Stone, who is a terrier mix from Mackenzie's Animal Sanctuary, and then Mike, who is a Chihuahua Poodle mix from Hearts of Hope Dog Rescue. And if you are not looking for a dog, you might just want to go check out the picture of Mike, because his ears are like long hair, big. I mean, his ears are as big as his head. So he is super cute. It sounds like poor Mike has had kind of a rough life, though. So he needs someone who can really be patient with him while he is learning what it is to be a dog in a normal family. At least that's the impression I get from his description. On Friday, we also mentioned that the clock is ticking for the 2023 Food Fight donations. Each year, the Flat River Outreach Ministries, better known as FROM, they have an annual food fight. This actually, so remember Rick Ceases, who did our real estate column at the start of the week. Rick Cease is actually who started Food Fight 14 years ago. He had the idea of, let's have a little friendly competition in the city. Let's pit the north side of town versus the south side of town, because in the summer donations kind of drop off for the food pantry. So he thought, let's do this food fight and shore up the reserve. So now they've been doing it for 14 years, and Ariane Hall, who's the development director for FROM, said it's their biggest campaign that they have all year. And so there's barrel locations there's barrels located at more than 30 places around town. So from as far north as Red Barn Market to as far south as Heidi's, you can drop off non-perishable food as well as other items, like shampoo, toothpaste, toothbrushes, that sort of stuff. You can put it in a barrel. You can make a financial gift, or you could go to a restaurant during a benefit night, which the last one will be at Culver's on May 30th between 5 and 8 p.m. And if you eat at Culver's during that time, they're going to donate a portion of the proceeds to Food Fight. If you make a financial gift, which Ariane Hall says they always appreciate that, because they have ways to, they can really stretch those dollars through their connections, and it allows them to buy things that they don't get donated. And also there's things that you really just can't donate, things like fresh foods, I would assume meat. So they like getting those financial donations as well. But you have to get yours in by Wednesday, May 31st, because Food Fight ends at the end of May. Oh, and if you do make a financial donation, they have someone who is matching up to $40,000. So that's another reason, if you're not able to drop off food at a barrel, we have the link in this article so that you can just make a donation right online. Could not be easier. And we would suggest making a donation for the north side of town, but I suppose if you are on the south side of town and would like to make a donation to them, obviously that would be fine too. Our final article of the week is the River Trail Triathlon coming in June. This is a pretty neat event, I think. I wish that I were a little bit more athletic so I could give it a try, but I'm not sure that I am. But Grant, and I'm going to say his last name wrong, it's Hengeback? Anyways, we'll just call him Grant. He is a relatively new resident of Lowell. He lives here with his wife. They have a dog, and he's from Pewamo, Westphalia originally. And he said that he moved here and he just fell in love with the parks and the trails. He goes walking with the dog. He just thinks Lowell's a really neat place. And so he and his wife are chaperoning a church group to go to World Youth Day this summer, and they were looking for a fundraiser to help offset the cost of those trips. And Grant has apparently, in the past, he has done about 5 different fundraising events, like volleyball tournaments and spike ball, I think is what he said. I'm not exactly sure what that is, but he's done some. But he thought, I'm here in Lowell. Lowell is beautiful. Let's do a triathlon. And he said he did one triathlon when he was a student at Aquinas, and he didn't really like the swimming part a whole lot. He was up at Harbor Springs, and he said he kind of got turned around in the water, and so he thought the swimming was kind of a mess. And he thought, well, really with Lowell, swimming doesn't necessarily make a whole lot of sense, but kayaking does. So this is a little bit of a non-traditional triathlon in that rather than swimming, you are kayaking, biking, and running or walking. And he has 2 divisions because he wants to make it accessible to everyone. So there's the Try Hard division, which is 1 mile of kayaking, 7 miles of biking, and 1.5 miles of running. Or there is Try Harder, which is 2 miles of kayaking, 15 miles of biking, and 3.25 miles of running. And if even the Try Hard seems too hard, you can sign up as a relay team. So maybe you've got a couple of friends, one of you is a biker, one of you is a runner, and you love to kayak. You can sign up as a relay team, or if you don't have friends, but you only kayak, bike, or run, you can sign up as a free agent, and then Grant will connect different free agents to make relay teams. And you need your own bike, but if you don't have a kayak, he has about 18 kayaks available for people to borrow if you don't have one. So it sounds like a really neat event. He said that he's, been working hard to make sure that, he's talked to law enforcement. He tried to create routes that, kept people in low traffic areas or kept them on trails as much as possible. But if you would like to do this triathlon, it's on June 17th. He's hoping to have, you can register, I think, right up until the day of the event. But if you want a t-shirt, you should get your registration in by Wednesday, May 31st. And if you look at the article that we have on Lowell's First Look, we have a link to their website, and that also has the routes and more information. And Grant says that if it is successful, then he hopes to do it every year and then just have a different organization benefit every year for the money that is raised from it. So he wants to do it as a nonprofit event, that something that benefits various community groups. And that covers all the news of the week. Looking forward to our spotlight events. Obviously there's the River Trail Triathlon coming up on the 17th. There's also, if you are looking for another run or activity to do, there's the Strides for Life 5K on June 3rd, which is the fundraiser for Alpha Care Center. And then we are very close to the Sizzling Summer Concert Series starting. And they're kicking it off this year with the Fusion Rock Orchestra, which is a Lowell High School group, and they are amazing. And so normally the concerts are on Thursday, but the Fusion Rock Orchestra, they are going to start with a special concert on Sunday, June 4th at 3 p.m. It'll be right on the Riverwalk at the Showboat stage. And then after that, almost every Thursday during summer, there will be a free concert at 7 p.m. on the Riverwalk. So mark your calendars. Lowell Rotary also meets every week on Wednesday at noon at City Hall. Always open to new members and guests. Talk to a Lowell Rotary member if you'd like to join or visit. If you don't know a Lowell Rotary member, shoot us an email and we would be happy to connect you. And I think that is all the news that was fit to print this week. Next week is Memorial Day, so we won't publish anything on Monday. We will have pictures from a graduation parade that students had at the local elementary schools. We have more letters to the editor coming next week, and then all of our normal columns. And we did also attend a Boyne Township, I'm never sure how to say it. They're looking at having a biodigester down there. And so we attended a meeting this past week, or I shouldn't say we, Michelle Smith went to that meeting for us, and we'll have a recap about that next week. So bookmark lowellsfirstlook.com, and we will chat again next week. Have a great weekend, Lowell.